Welcome, everyone. I can't wait to give you 3 ways to keep your cool at the IEP meeting. This is for parents, teachers, admins, therapists, anybody who has sat at the IEP meeting. You guys know that it can get tense, it can get overwhelming, and it's sometimes tough to keep your cool. Now, let me just share with you, I'm not talking just about losing your cool and blowing up at the IEP table. Keeping your cool means being able to stay connected, being able to have conversations, being able to work together and collaborate. When you lose your cool, sometimes it's not just on the outside, it's on the inside, and it can look like shutting down. I would love to hear from you below. Go ahead and put in the comments, what is something that has happened at an IEP meeting that has made you lose your cool? Whether you're got a little too loud at the IEP table, maybe you kind of dug in on your talking point and you're like, I'm not giving up on this. You started to lose kind of your cool on that topic. Or you shut down and you were like, I just can't. And that was your way of losing your cool. But what really triggered you to lose your cool at an IEP meeting? Now, there are 3 strategies that I love to use to make sure that everybody can stay on the same page, collaborating, connecting, and communicating. And to do this, it takes being intentional before the IEP meeting. This is step number 1. Step number 1 is to make sure that you make it very clear that you don't want any surprises at the IEP table. Now, a lot of times we're dancing around this concept. We're saying things like, please give me a draft IEP if you're a parent, or as a teacher, you're trying to, nudge the parent before the meeting saying, hey, is there anything that you want us to bring up? Or by the way, we might be talking about these different topics. And it's very loose conversation of no surprises at the IEP meeting. I'm going to encourage you to be very blunt that you are looking forward to the meeting and that you want to have open communication and you want to know what the agenda is going to be at the meeting so there are no surprises. If you're at the IEP meeting and surprises start to happen, it is okay. In fact, I encourage you to say, I am surprised to hear this information and I need a few minutes to digest. Or I'm surprised to hear this information. I'd like to see all of the data or all the materials or whatever's being brought up at this IEP meeting so we can discuss later. This is not something I'm ready to talk about right now. That can work for both parents and for teachers. A lot of times, parents are the ones that are bringing the surprises to the table, and the team is like, what's happening? Teachers, you can say, wow, I'm surprised to hear this. I'm surprised to see this. I'm going to need some time to really look at this so I can fully understand where you're coming from. It is absolutely okay to speak openly that this is a surprise and we need to hit pause on this conversation because this is a surprise topic. Keeping your cool at the IEP meeting means that you're not going to get overly upset when something is a surprise because you know that you can table that discussion until next time if necessary. This is a huge strategy to make sure that you stay on topic, that you're completing the agenda for the IEP meeting. I've used this many times. For those of you that don't know, I've been writing IEPs professionally for over 25 years. I started out as a special education teacher, and for the last 20 years, I've been working for you, parents, teachers, admins, therapists. As founder of the Master IEP Coach Mentorship, I want you to work together as a team, and I want to give you the strategies to make that happen. Eliminating surprises at the IEP table is a key step. All right, you guys ready for step number 2? Remember, keep putting below. What are the things that have made you lose your cool at the IEP meeting? Step number 2, anytime that you hear somebody, even yourself, say a sentence that starts with I feel or we feel, that should be a red flag that we're getting ready for some type of heated conversation, most likely. I feel that the child is not doing well. I feel like the child would do better over here. I feel like, okay? I'm just going to put it out there straight for you. IEPs are not about how you feel. It's about what are the facts to support what we need to do to ensure that a child's getting an appropriate education to meet their unique needs, to prepare them for further education, employment, and independent living. That means that your feelings Although they may provide some insight, they should not be the basis for any decisions. And quite honestly, they shouldn't be a strong basis for any of the conversations at the IEP table. You need data. You need to be able to say, what is the data to support this recommendation? What is the data to support this decision? Or if you're the teacher, you might be saying, do we have data to support this request that the parent's making? And if not, how do we take that data? A lot of times we're losing our cool over conversations because we don't have enough information, and we start to have conversations based on feelings and not facts. And that's not good. So your second strategy is to make sure that you always have the data to support the conversations that you're having at the IEP table, so it doesn't become about your emotions or what you feel is happening, but that you have facts to support what really is happening. All right, number 3. But before I give you this third tip, if you're watching on YouTube, I want you to hit subscribe so you never miss these free IEP trainings. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and hit follow so you get notifications also for when these IEP trainings are coming up at least once a week. All right, so hit subscribe or hit follow so I can connect with you and I can make sure that you're getting all of the information that you need to improve your role at the IEP table. Our third tip of how to keep your cool at the IEP table is to always know that you can press pause right during the meeting. If you need to put a topic on hold, or you even need to take a 5-minute break, and I even mean on Zoom, you absolutely can say, you know what, we need to all just take a breath. You can turn off your Zoom camera. All right, if you're a teacher, you can't just decide to do that. All right, you need the table, your virtual table, to decide that everybody's going to take, a 3-minute break. And you can take this 3-minute break and gather yourself. How many times have we heard, or we try to tell our students or our children, like, let's just count to 10. Let's just take a breath. I just need a minute. It is okay to do that during an IEP meeting, 100%. Have you ever taken a pause during the IEP meeting because things got too heated? Have you ever been at an IEP meeting where somebody said, let's take a pause? When I was supporting parents through the IEP process, I would often encourage them, if I was sitting next to them, like, it's time for us to take a break. Let's step out into the hallway. If I was there on behalf of the district, because a lot of times I got called in to do consulting for districts to get through difficult IEP situations, when I saw the conversation, when I heard the conversations, when I felt the conversations getting heated, I would say, you know what, let's take pause and let's just kind of regather our thoughts. Let's make sure we have the data. Let's make sure that we are ready for this conversation and that we're prepared to have it in a collaborative way. We can come back to the table like 3-5 minutes. We're going to go get a drink of water. And that, again, from the district side. So for all my admins or case managers who are running meetings, do not be afraid to hit pause on the meeting to let everybody gather their thoughts and just take a breath and come back in. So let's recap those really quick. Number 1, you have to work before the meeting and during the meeting to make sure that no surprises are taking over the IEP meeting. Number 2, you have to make sure that you have data to support all of your conversations, your decisions, and your recommendations. Number 3, you have to make sure that you take a pause in the meeting if that's what you need to gather your thoughts together. So you have to be able to do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and jump down here in the comments. Now, in the meantime, I want you to go over to IEPchecklist.com and go get 12 questions that you need to be asking before the IEP meeting, during the IEP meeting, after the IEP meeting. I'm just writing it out here so I can pop it up for you so you guys can see the site there. Let's go to IEPchecklist.com. I'll give you 12 questions that will help you stay on track in this IEP process. These 12 questions are for anybody who sits at an IEP table. Susan says, silly question. No silly questions ever. If you have the question, somebody else has the question. But where's the data coming from? What if parents don't have the data? You have to get the data either from the parent, because maybe they've been doing the hybrid learning, or you have to get it from the teachers, the speech therapists. There should be data for every talking point that you have, especially when it comes to goals. when it comes to accommodations and modifications. So where's the data coming from? The most simple situation where it comes from is we're talking about an IEP goal. Let's say that it's sight words. We're talking about, the child needs to, acquire another 25 sight words in the upcoming year. And we're arguing, I think he learned them. I don't think he learned them. Well, he learned them only in the school setting. He never uses them at home. He can't use them in a sentence. So did he really learn them? So we could have a heated discussion over opinions, or we could look at, there were 50 trials of sight words, and here's all the data of what sight words were learned and not learned. So we have to have the data for that. Good morning, Amy. Great to see you here. Becca says, yes, I had to do it when I was pregnant. They thought I was going into labor. Nope, just emotional. That's taking a pause. So she wanted to take a pause. Becca's also part of our Master IEP Coach mentorship. So welcome, Becca, for hanging out here today. Let's see. Here's something that really set Gail off. I asked you guys to share what were some of the things that made you upset at the IEP table where you had a hard time keeping your cool. Gail says, when my son's second grade teacher burst into tears and stated that I, meaning his mom, had no idea how hard it was to be with him. He has autism and all day and to teach a class of 7-year-olds. I nearly flew over the table. Well, Gail, I'm glad that you didn't fly over the table. I'm also excited to have you in the Master IEP Coach mentorship. And yeah, it's statements like that sometimes that teacher did not keep her cool, right? It happens to teachers too. It's not just parents. A lot of times we hear about that mom, right? And even sometimes parents will say, I'm not afraid to be that mom. Okay, you don't have to be afraid of it, but I don't want you to have to be that mom. I want you to have the tools and the strategies and the knowledge so you can have a collaborative team. And it's difficult when somebody loses their cool and says a statement that hurts, and it still hurts years later. All right, we have, let's see. I'm just scrolling through the comments here. Nika says, and Nika's also in the Master IEP Coach mentorship, when someone makes a suggestion and the parent disagrees, and they keep trying to convince them, specifically in regards to COVID and whether immune-compromised students should be attending in person because it would be easier for this school. And that does happen. There's a lot of convincing that tries to happen, that people try to make happen inside of the IEP meeting. And that shouldn't be happening that way. We shouldn't be convincing. We should be using data. If it's immune issues, we should have some medical papers to support what the medical community says is accessible for the student. And teachers are not doctors, and school nurses are not doctors. And I know that from a school perspective, there are things that you want, for when it comes to a child staying at school or attending more often. Totally get it. But convincing is not going to happen, especially when we're talking about medical things. Let's see. We have having an outsider make a very inaccurate judgment made my mind go dark for a moment. I love how you describe that, because that's what it is. It's almost like this rage where you're just like, oh my gosh, what just happened? Did that really just happen? I'm not really sure with that. So having somebody make a judgment is a very difficult situation when you know that that judgment is not accurate. But we have to get the data. We have to make sure we take a pause. We need to gather our thoughts for that conversation so we can be productive and continue to collaborate. We have some, let's see, I just went through this. Gotcha. Let's see, Jenna says, I definitely remember times in IEP meetings when I should have paused, but I pushed through. Much worse. Too many emotions. Yes, hitting pause is a great strategy that is not used often enough. I love using that strategy to hit pause and make sure that everybody comes back with a little bit clearer thoughts of what needs to happen next. I mentioned a couple of times here, I just want to make sure everybody knows, I mentioned that we have some Master IEP coaches that are watching and collaborating right now. If you're curious of what a Master IEP coach is, go hop over to masteriepcoach.com. Our June enrollment just opened, and it will be the last Master IEP Coach mentorship of 2021. We have one happening right now. That registration is closed. We're already in the middle of the mentorship. We'll have one mentorship in June, and that's it. We will not be back till 2022. There are a lot of things that are happening inside of our special education community. And I'm going to be preparing master IEP coaches to make a huge difference in the special education community. So I invite you to go over to masteriepcoach.com, see what we do, and see if you're all in with us in 2021. Mika just says, if you're curious, you should be one. She's in the mentorship right now. In fact, you can message Mika and see her feedback of the Master IEP Coach mentorship and touch base with her. I'm sure she would be happy to answer any questions for you. Let's see. Even though I've used my Master IEP Coach strategies, such as prior written notice, I still have not received reasons for refusal for ESY district speech 15 hours. So again, that's a very specific request that you're making. And I would have to see data to support that request for 15 hours. Why 15 hours? How does that correlate to what might have been agreed upon between the school? So there's a lot of X factors in there. I'm excited to see that you are using your Master IEP Coach strategies. Make sure you continue to build that timeline of requests, use the data for support, and really figure out what are they willing to offer and why are they not wanting to go that route, and is there data to support their decision? Let's see. Amy says, picking words wisely, describing the student behavior. At times, as a parent, your defenses cloud your brain. Yes, it does. I'm a mom. I know it has happened to me. Absolutely. Amy is a master IEP coach and a special needs mom also. She has sat at various different roles in the IEP table. So it happens to all of us. It happens to everyone. Let's see. We have Valerie who says, when a parent requests prior to the meeting to provide all data collection to substantiate progress on goals, and they don't bring it to the meeting and don't ever provide it afterwards, most of the time they don't have real data, and progress is an opinion that's not based upon facts. I hear this a lot, Valerie. We work on this in the Master IEP Coach mentorship. And it's really important for you to ask for the specific data that's already written inside of the goals, as this is the type of data that's going to be collected. So for example, if it is, again, back to those sight words as an example, a child is going to gain 25 sight words in a year, and the data collection method is charting, I want to actually see those charts. So every IEP goal should have a method of data collection attached to it. So in the same section, somewhere next to that goal, everybody's IEP paperwork is a little bit different, but data collection is not optional. Data collection is absolutely written into that IEP goal in some way. So you want to be able to go into the IEP, look at that goal, figure out the data collection, and figure out exactly what you're asking for. So you're not just asking for data, you're asking for the specific charting data that goes with that sight word goal. So make sure that you're very specific in that. And of course, we'd love to have you over at masteriepcoach.com. So there you go, guys. You guys have two resources that you can hop over to, masteriepcoach.com, or of course, go grab your free IEP checklist at iepchecklist.com. Whichever you do, pick one of those. All right. Don't do nothing. You need to do something. Pick one of those. Go to masteriepcoach.com or go to iepchecklist.com. Get some resources, get started. You are not alone on your special education journey. I can't wait to talk to you guys next time. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and post below. I'll be watching comments. And I love to get to know who you are. What are you struggling with the IEPs? And let me send you some resources to help you out. I'll talk to you guys soon.